Imagine walking out into your courtyard, right? You just step outside, and you find your teenage son hanging upside down from a fruit tree.
Oh, just a complete nightmare scenario for any parent.
Literally a nightmare because he hasn't just climbed up there. He has taken a pig-killing knife, stabbed it straight through his own ankle bone, threaded a rope through his own severed tendons, and hoisted himself up.
Right, he's bleeding, he's screaming.
Yeah, and your reaction as a parent, I mean, as any normal human being, would be absolute sheer panic. You'd be terrified.
You'd be calling for help, trying to get him down immediately.
Exactly. But the woman we are looking at today, she simply walked out, looked at her bleeding son hanging there, pointed to her own neck, and said, "Stab here next time."
Yeah.
And then she just walked away.
She just left him hanging there. And, I mean, in doing so, she entirely dismantled his attempt to control her.
It's wild.
It is. It's a stunning, just deeply jarring moment from a text that constantly, forces the reader to reevaluate the boundaries of human behavior.
So welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. We are jumping into an essay by an author named Swifeng. And the piece is titled, "Who is My Grandmother After All, and Who Am I?"
Which is a very fitting title for the journey this text takes you on.
Oh, for sure. The trajectory of the source material, I mean, it honestly gives you whiplash.
It really does.
It begins as this very rustic, highly intimate memoir about a deeply eccentric rural grandmother. But then, by the final pages, it spirals into this massive decoding of universal blueprints and cosmic theology.
Right. It shifts genres entirely.
Yeah. So today, our mission is to examine how a simple search for family roots can lead to these massive, mind-bending revelations about reality itself.
Okay.
Let's unpack this.
Well, the author presents his grandmother as a walking contradiction right from the start. She's a woman who defies, well, basically every conventional category we use to make sense of the people around us.
Right. Let's start with her intellect, because the text points out immediately that she was completely illiterate.
Yes, she could not read or write a single word.
Not one word. And in a traditional setting, you might just assume that means she was disconnected from broader intellectual conversations, you know?
You'd assume she only knew about her immediate practical life.
Exactly. Yet her vocabulary and her philosophical depth were just staggering. Like, she would casually observe her surroundings and drop phrases like, "If one contemplates the heavens and earth incessantly, profound principles will eventually become clear."
Which is incredibly poetic.
It is. Or she would face this massive setback, sigh, and simply declare, "Let's leave it to fate."
And she wasn't just parroting idioms she'd overheard in the village marketplace either.
Right, she wasn't just repeating things.
No, the source emphasizes that she argued her points with such flawless logic that highly educated scholars, I mean, including the author's own uncle, who had years of formal schooling, they would be completely silenced.
Oh, wow. They just couldn't debate her.
They could only sit and listen to her present these perfectly airtight philosophical arguments.
Which raises the big question, right? How does someone acquire that level of piercing clarity without ever opening a book?
It's fascinating.
It suggests she was processing raw, lived experience directly into philosophical logic. Like, she didn't learn about the world through secondary sources. She simply observed the world until the mechanics of it made sense to her.
And we see that exact same internal logic applied to her diet and her personal habits.
Oh, her habits were so intense.
Yeah, the text explicitly notes she never burned incense, she never visited temples, and she never worshipped Buddha.
Right. She completely rejected the performative aspects of organized religion in her community.
Exactly. But at the same time, she maintained this fanatically strict vegetarian diet.
Yeah, no beef, no mutton, no chicken, duck, or fish. She wouldn't even let an egg pass her lips.
Not even an egg.
So if she isn't following a specific religious doctrine, you have to ask, what is the mechanism behind this intense restriction?
Well, it seems to be about control.
Yeah, it feels like an assertion of absolute bodily autonomy. I mean, in a society and era where a rural woman might have very little control over her circumstances, the one thing she could definitively govern was what crossed the threshold of her own mouth.
Right. It's a moral or spiritual discipline that is entirely divorced from external validation.
Yeah.
She isn't performing piety for an audience, She is adhering to her own internal compass.
Yeah.
And this principle of unseen discipline is most visibly manifested in her obsession with cleaning.
Okay, the cleaning habits described here are fascinating Because the text mentions her pristine clothes and gleaming tables, sure, but her true obsession was the dark corners.
The places no one else would ever look.
Exactly. She intensely scrubbed under the heavy cabinets, behind the doors, under the food steamer, and deep inside the bucket sitting next to the stove.
The spaces where cleanliness functionally does not matter to the outside observer.
It reminds me so much of a brilliant computer programmer working on the back-end architecture of a massive software system.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
Right, like the user interface on the front end looks fine to the public, but this developer spends hundreds of hours organizing hidden data structures and refining code that no user will ever actually see.
Because it's about the foundation.
Exactly. The developer isn't doing it for public praise or a promotion. They're doing it because they serve a higher sense of system architecture. The code dictates how the entire program runs, so operating on the back end is about maintaining structural integrity.
I like that. The underlying mechanism at play there is what we might call the integrity of the unseen.
The integrity of the unseen. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, the grandmother is essentially declaring that order has inherent value, independent of human perception.
Right.
If she believes that contemplating the heavens and earth reveals profound principles, like she said, then cleaning the hidden stove bucket is her way of aligning her immediate physical microcosm with the macrocosmic order of the universe. She is practicing discipline in the dark.
Practicing discipline in the dark. And that unwavering internal alignment sets the stage for what I can only really describe as her radical detachment.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when this woman made a decision, she executed it with a finality that is almost frightening. Look at the wheat harvest incident detailed in the text.
That scene is so vivid.
It is. It's the peak of summer. For a rural farming family, the summer harvest is an urgent, life-or-death endeavor.
Because the weather is wildly unpredictable.
Right. The crops are ripe, and every able body is frantically swinging a sickle in the fields to secure their livelihood for the whole year.
And during this frantic push, she gets a wheat on, which is the bristly, sharp part of the plant stuck in her throat.
Which has to be incredibly painful.
Yeah.
But it's an occupational hazard, right?
Yeah, usually farmers just cough it up or swallow it down and keep swinging.
But the text states she instantly throws her sickle to the ground. She stands up in the middle of the field and announces to her family, "Whether you continue harvesting this wheat is your business. I will never engage in farming again."
Just like that. She executes a total rejection of the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
A lifetime of farming history, the immediate pressure of the harvest, the expectations of her family, none of it matters the moment she decides the cost of the labor outweighs its value to her.
And she doesn't just go sit in the house and pout. The very next day, she abandons the farm entirely, travels to the county town, rents a storefront, and opens the Zhang family steamed bread shop.
And within a single year, the shop becomes famous across the entire region.
There is zero hesitation. She just drops the sickle and pivots her entire existence.
It demonstrates an astonishing level of agency. She refuses to suffer pointlessly. But, her detachment from physical hardship is really merely a prelude to her detachment from emotional manipulation.
Which brings us right back to the pig-killing knife.
Yes, the courtyard scene.
Let's really unpack the mechanics of that scene. Her son, the author's father, gets into an argument with her, and the text notes he decides to teach his mother a lesson, to give her a little color to see.
Right, he wants to emotionally devastate her.
So he performs this horrific act of self-mutilation, stabbing his ankle, threading the rope, hanging himself from the tree.
He is weaponizing his own body to hijack her nervous system.
Exactly.
It is a calculated act of emotional terrorism designed to force her into a state of panic and submission.
Right, but I need to push back heavily on how the author frames this, though, because the essay presents her reaction as this triumph of her philosophy.
It does portray it as a victory.
But we have to look at the reality of a mother walking out, seeing her child bleeding from a severed tendon, and offering her own neck before turning her back. I mean, is this profound enlightenment, or is it objectively neglectful?
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. Ignoring a bleeding, suspended family member is incredibly dangerous. How do we reconcile her supposed wisdom with such an icy, detached response to a medical emergency?
Well, it forces us to examine the anatomy of a tantrum, really, and the mechanism of boundary setting.
Okay, how so?
She instantly identifies that his underlying goal is not to die. His goal is to initiate a theatrical tragedy where she plays the role of the hysterical, begging mother.
Right.
If she panics, he wins. He secures permanent emotional leverage over her. By refusing to participate in the chaos, she strips away his power entirely.
Okay, yeah. She calls his bluff.
Exactly.
By pointing to her neck and saying, "Stab here next time," she is communicating, if you actually wanted to inflict fatal harm, you know where the vital organs are. You chose a painful but non-lethal wound because you want an audience.
She establishes an impenetrable boundary. She treats his self-mutilation not as a crisis requiring her intervention, but as a foolish, ineffective strategy.
Wow.
Her coldness is the exact tool required to permanently short-circuit his manipulation. And the text notes that her reaction completely conquers him. He realizes he possesses zero power over her emotional state.
She basically starved the fire of its oxygen. It is a brutal tactic, but you can see how that impenetrable, mysterious nature would leave a massive impression on her family. And honestly, this specific mystery is what drives the great tragedy of this deep dive.
The misconnection.
The missed connection.
Yeah.
Because the author explains that when he was in the 5th grade, his grandmother approached him.
Right.
She offered to sit down, explain the entire origin story of their family, and asked him to write it down for posterity.
A literal invitation to map his roots, offered directly from the source.
But he's a kid. He wants to go play. How many times have you, listening right now, brushed off an older relative's story because you were too busy?
Oh, we've all done it.
Right. Only to realize later that the ultimate library of your family's history just burned down because he brushes her off, telling her, "Grandma, let's talk about it later."
And shortly after that brief exchange, she passes away.
The library burns down before he ever bothers to check out a single book.
And he is left with a profound void. The text describes him feeling like a drifting duckweed floating aimlessly on a vast sea.
That imagery is incredibly precise.
It really is.
Because a duckweed has no deep root system, right? It is entirely at the mercy of the water's surface currents. Without an understanding of his origins, the author feels he has no anchor and no defined destination.
Right. He writes about experiencing immense, crushing regret over that casual dismissal.
He becomes desperate for answers. The essay details how he begins interrogating the natural world. He asks the sun, the moon, the mountains, and even the gods for answers about his family origin.
And the only response the universe returns to him is mystery.
Mystery, just silence.
We have to look at the causal relationship between that specific grief and the massive philosophical shift that happens next in the text. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and the human mind abhors a meaningless tragedy. A missing family tree isn't just lost data, it's a fractured identity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the physical answers are permanently gone, the pain of that void literally forces his brain to construct a framework large enough to contain the mystery.
He has to build something out of the fragments she left behind. And this is exactly where the narrative launches into orbit.
It really takes off.
It transitions from a story about a grieving grandson into a massive esoteric cosmology. The author is writing the Bible, trying to find meaning, and he has this massive epiphany about her true identity.
Right. He draws a direct structural parallel to the New Testament.
He concludes that just as heaven sent John the Baptist to prepare the way for Jesus, the kingdom of heaven specifically sent his grandmother to prepare the way for him.
Yes.
She wasn't just a quirky relative with strange habits. She was a divine messenger sent to enlighten and guide him before he was even born.
This is a masterclass in the psychological process of retrospective meaning-making.
Retrospective meaning-making. Tell me more about that.
Well, we take the random, sometimes chaotic data points of our past, and we string a narrative thread through them to make our current reality coherent.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because it's like staring at a pile of random, disjointed puzzle pieces for 50 years. You think you're looking at a chaotic picture of a landscape.
Right.
But suddenly your perspective shifts, and you realize you aren't looking at a picture at all. You're looking at a map. And every strange shape, every jagged edge she presented to him was actually a directional marker he was meant to follow.
Exactly. He resolves the mystery the universe handed him by elevating her actions to a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
That unwavering integrity of the unseen when cleaning the buckets, the radical detachment in the wheat field, he retroactively frames these not as rural eccentricities, but as vital coded lessons on how to perceive universal order.
It's like going to Ancestry.com to find out where your grandpa grew up and somehow ending up with the architectural blueprints for the entire universe.
That's a great way to put it.
Because the text explicitly states that because he finally grasps these profound principles she was demonstrating, he spends countless sleepless nights observing nature and actually discovers why the greatest creator laid down the 36-8 diagram arrays in the universe.
Yes, the essay dives fully into complex spiritual blueprints here. And just for context, An 8-diagram array, or bagua, is an ancient Chinese conceptual tool used to map reality.
Okay.
It represents the fundamental principles and changing states of the universe, like sky, earth, water, and fire. When the author claims to decipher 36 of these arrays, he is saying he has decoded the overarching mathematical and spiritual architecture of how the universe organizes itself.
Wow. So he is claiming that he solves the ultimate puzzle of reality, all because he finally understood who his illiterate grandmother truly was.
Exactly. He views her silent discipline as a microcosmic demonstration of these macrocosmic laws. Her detachment was the principle of water flowing past an obstacle. Her cleaning was the earth principle of establishing order.
It all connects back.
While constructing this cosmic family tree, he anchors the drifting duckweed. The grief of saying, "let's talk about it later," is transformed into a destined, necessary catalyst for his spiritual journey.
Because if she had simply told him the history in the 5th grade, he might never have been forced to contemplate the heavens and earth to find his own answers.
Precisely.
The essay ends with a message of overwhelming gratitude. The author states that even 1 billion years wouldn't be enough time to repay the greatest creator for the love shown by sending this grandmother to guide him.
It's a profound shift.
It really is. We started this exploration looking at a spotlessly clean bucket sitting next to a rural stove, and we end up navigating the 36 8-diagram arrays of the universe. It is an incredible testament to the lengths the human mind will go to find purpose.
And it demonstrates that memory and history are most valuable, not when they are simply recorded, but when we actively apply them to our ongoing search for meaning.
I want to highlight one final brilliant detail from the source material that perfectly encapsulates the sheer force of this woman's existence. The author mentions his mother, the grandmother's daughter-in-law, who lived in the courtyard and witnessed all of this firsthand.
Right, the mother's perspective.
Yeah. She held a deep, profound respect for the grandmother, and she would frequently tell the author, if your grandmother were a man, she would pierce a hole through the sky.
It really captures her raw, unyielding power. She operated with a philosophical weight and a decisiveness that completely defied the limitations placed upon her by her society, her gender, and her absolute lack of formal education.
She pierced a hole through the sky for her grandson, opening up an entirely new universe of meaning for him even after she was gone. So what does this all mean for you? We want to leave you with this final thought to mull over today.
It's an important question.
Think about how meaning operates in your own life. If meaning isn't just something we inherit automatically, but something we actively construct out of the fragments our ancestors leave behind, what kind of fragments are you leaving for the people who come next? Are your daily habits, your unexplained quirks, and the things you choose to care about going to leave them with clarity? Or are you leaving them a complex mystery they will have to spend a lifetime trying to solve?